Sometimes the most important warning is the one nobody believes. The annual Pine Hollow Fall Festival filled the town square with laughter, music, and the scent of fresh caramel apples drifting through the crisp October air. Children ran between colorful booths. Families gathered beneath strings of glowing lights. The afternoon sun painted everything in warm shades of gold. It was the kind of day that made people forget their worries for a while. Officer Ryan Mitchell walked slowly along the crowded pathway with his German Shepherd partner, Ace, at his side. The 7-year-old police dog moved with calm confidence, his sable coat shining beneath the sunlight. For years, Ace had served beside Ryan. He had located missing hikers, helped find lost children, and detected dangers long before people realized they existed. The town trusted him. Ryan trusted him even more. Near the center of the festival, a small crowd gathered around a local bakery stand. That was where Ryan first noticed Olivia Parker. She was several months pregnant and smiling as she spoke with neighbors. Everyone seemed to know her. She had lived in Pine Hollow her entire life. Kind, friendly, the sort of person who remembered birthdays and brought homemade cookies to community events. Nothing about her seemed unusual. Then everything changed. He stopped walking. His entire body became rigid. His ears shot forward. Ryan immediately felt the leash tighten in his hand. The German Shepherd's eyes locked onto Olivia. Before Ryan could react, Ace released a sharp bark that cut through the cheerful noise of the festival. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Ace barked again. Louder this time. More urgent. Olivia froze in surprise. Ryan stared at his partner in disbelief. This was not normal behavior. Ace never reacted this way toward innocent people. The dog pulled forward, straining against the leash. Another bark echoed across the square. Several nearby parents instinctively stepped closer to their children. Confusion spread through the crowd. Ryan immediately issued a command. Ace, sit. The German Shepherd obeyed for only a moment. Then he stood again, eyes still fixed on Olivia. His chest rose and fell rapidly. He barked once more. Desperate. Determined. Almost pleading. Olivia looked embarrassed. She placed one hand gently against her stomach and offered an awkward smile. It is okay, she said. Maybe he does not like me. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. But Ryan did not laugh. Something felt wrong. He had spent thousands of hours with this dog. He knew every signal, every reaction, every subtle change in behavior. This was not aggression. It was not fear. It was something else. Something Ryan could not explain. Festival organizers soon guided people back to their activities. Music started again. Conversations resumed. Yet Ace refused to calm down. Even as Olivia walked away through the crowd, the German Shepherd continued watching her. His amber eyes followed every step she took until she disappeared beyond the rows of vendor tents. Only then did he finally stop barking. The silence that followed felt strangely heavy. Ryan knelt beside his partner and placed a hand on his neck. Ace remained tense beneath his touch. The officer looked toward the place where Olivia had vanished. Around him, the festival continued as though nothing had happened. But deep inside, a quiet uneasiness had already begun to grow. Because for the first time in 7 years, Ace had reacted to someone in a way Ryan had never seen before. By the following morning, the incident at the festival had become one of the most discussed topics in Pine Hollow. The town was small enough that unusual events traveled quickly. People talked about it while waiting in line at the grocery store. They talked about it over coffee at the diner. Some laughed about it. Others questioned whether a police dog should have been allowed near a crowded public event at all. Ryan Mitchell heard every version before lunchtime. None of them made him feel any better. Ace lay quietly beside his desk at the police station, but something about the German Shepherd seemed different. Usually after a busy assignment, he would relax. Today he remained unusually alert. Every sound from the hallway caused his ears to twitch. Every opening door drew his attention. It was as if he were waiting for something. Around noon, Ryan stopped at a local cafe to grab lunch. The autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves and distant chimney smoke. As he stepped inside, he immediately noticed Olivia Parker seated near the front window. Sunlight filtered through the glass and illuminated her face. She appeared perfectly healthy, relaxed, happy even. A cup of tea rested on the table beside her. Ryan considered leaving to avoid an awkward encounter, but Olivia noticed him first and smiled politely. "Officer Mitchell," she called. "I think your partner owes me an apology." Her tone was friendly, but Ryan could hear the embarrassment beneath it. He approached with an uneasy smile. "I am sorry about yesterday," he said. "I have never seen him act like that before." Olivia laughed softly. "Well, at least he made me the most famous pregnant woman in town." For a moment, the tension eased. Then the cafe door opened behind Ryan. He stepped inside. The instant the German shepherd saw Olivia, everything changed again. His body stiffened. His ears rose. A low whine escaped his throat. Ryan felt the leash tighten. "Not again," he muttered. But it was already happening. Ace pulled forward, eyes fixed entirely on Olivia. Not angry, not aggressive, focused, desperate. The dog released a sharp bark that echoed through the cafe. Conversations stopped immediately. Several customers turned toward them. Olivia's smile vanished. Ryan quickly gave a command, but Ace ignored it for the first time in years. The German shepherd moved closer to Olivia's table and began sniffing the air intensely. Then he barked again, and again. Each bark sounded more urgent than the last. The manager hurried from behind the counter. Customers exchanged nervous looks. Ryan finally guided Ace outside before the situation could escalate further. Once on the sidewalk, the dog continued staring through the cafe window. His breathing remained rapid. His eyes never left Olivia. Ryan knelt beside him and placed both hands on the dog's shoulders. "What is it?" he whispered. "What are you trying to tell me?" Ace responded with another soft whine. Across the glass, Olivia looked back at them with confusion written across her face. The afternoon sun warmed the street. Traffic moved normally. People continued their day. Everything appeared perfectly ordinary. Yet Ryan could not shake the feeling that his partner was seeing something the rest of them could not. The days that followed only deepened the mystery. Pine Hollow returned to its normal rhythm as autumn slowly settled over the town. Leaves gathered along sidewalks. School buses rolled through quiet neighborhoods each morning. The scent of wood smoke drifted from chimneys as temperatures continued to fall. Yet one thing refused to return to normal. Ace. Ryan tried everything he could think of. He reviewed training records. He spoke with veterinary specialists. He even scheduled a complete health examination for the German shepherd. Every result came back the same. Ace was healthy, focused, alert. There was no sign of illness, stress, or behavioral problems. According to every expert, nothing explained what was happening. But Ryan knew his partner too well to dismiss it. 3 days after the incident at the cafe, Ryan encountered Olivia again at a community charity event outside the town library. The afternoon sky was bright and clear. Children played on the lawn while volunteers arranged donation boxes beneath colorful tents. Everything appeared peaceful. Then Ace saw her. The transformation was immediate. His ears rose. His muscles tightened. A low whine escaped his throat before he lunged gently toward Olivia. Ryan tightened his grip on the leash. "Easy," he said quietly. But Ace was no longer paying attention to commands. The dog moved closer and began circling several feet away from Olivia. Not aggressively, not threateningly. Searching, watching, as though trying to solve a puzzle nobody else could see. Olivia noticed them and forced a nervous smile. "Your partner still does not like me," she joked. Several nearby volunteers laughed softly. Ryan managed a polite smile, but his attention remained fixed on Ace. The German shepherd had lowered his head. His nose worked continuously, drawing in scent after scent. Then something happened that Ryan had not noticed before. Ace was not focused on Olivia's face. He was not interested in her hands or the bag she carried. Every time he moved, his attention returned to the same place. The area around her pregnancy. Ryan felt a chill run through him despite the afternoon warmth. Ace stepped closer, then closer again. His tail remained still. His body language showed neither fear nor aggression, only urgency. The German shepherd released a short bark and looked directly at Ryan, then back toward Olivia, then back to Ryan. The sequence repeated several times. It looked less like a warning and more like communication. The dog was trying to show him something. Before Ryan could process the thought, Olivia suddenly placed a hand against her lower back. Her smile faded briefly. "Everything okay?" Ryan asked. "Just tired," she replied. "The baby keeps me busy these days." A few seconds later she smiled again and continued speaking with volunteers. The moment passed so quickly that nobody else seemed concerned. Yet Ryan noticed Ace watching her more intensely than ever. That evening, after returning to the station, Ryan sat alone reviewing reports while Ace rested nearby. The office was quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional ringing telephone. As he looked across the room, he noticed something unusual. Ace was not sleeping. The German Shepherd lay with his head raised, staring toward the door as if expecting someone to arrive. Ryan thought about Olivia, about the repeated reactions, about the exact place Ace always focused on. Outside, clouds slowly gathered across the night sky. Rain was forecast for the weekend. And for the first time since this strange ordeal began, Ryan found himself asking a question he had resisted from the very beginning. What if Ace was not reacting to Olivia at all? What if he was trying to warn them about something happening inside her that nobody else had discovered yet? The question followed Ryan everywhere over the next several days. It lingered in the back of his mind during patrol shifts. It followed him home at night. It even surfaced during quiet moments when the town seemed perfectly ordinary. What if Ace was trying to warn them about something hidden beneath the surface? The possibility sounded unreasonable. Yet the more Ryan thought about it, the harder it became to ignore. Friday afternoon brought cold winds and dark clouds rolling across Pine Hollow. Rain was expected by evening. Ryan stopped by the grocery store after work to pick up a few things before heading home. Ace accompanied him as usual. The store was busy with customers preparing for the weekend. Shopping carts rattled across polished floors. Children followed parents through crowded aisles. Everything seemed normal until Ryan noticed a familiar face near the produce section. Olivia Parker. She stood comparing apples while speaking on her phone. For a brief moment, Ryan considered turning around. He knew exactly what would happen next. Ace noticed her almost immediately. The German Shepherd froze. His ears rose. Every muscle in his body became tense. Ryan sighed quietly. Not here, buddy. But Ace was already moving. He did not bark this time. Instead, he walked directly toward Olivia with unusual determination. Ryan followed closely behind. Olivia looked up and immediately recognized them. Her expression tightened slightly. She forced a polite smile. Looks like we keep running into each other. Ryan nodded awkwardly. Before either could continue, Ace stopped several feet away and focused entirely on her. Once again, his attention settled on the same area. Not her face, not her hands, not her shopping cart. The pregnancy. The German Shepherd lowered his head and inhaled deeply. Then he released a soft whine that sounded almost mournful. Olivia looked down at him. What is it with me? She asked. Ryan had no answer. The silence that followed felt uncomfortable. Then Olivia placed a hand against her stomach and frowned. Actually, I have not been feeling great lately. Ryan looked up. What do you mean? She hesitated. Probably nothing. My doctor says everything looks normal. But I have been unusually tired. More than I expected. Ace immediately stepped forward. His tail remained perfectly still. Another soft whine escaped him. Olivia glanced at the dog and laughed nervously. Now he is making me worry. Ryan's smile never came. Something about the moment felt different. The conversation stayed with him long after they parted ways. Later that evening, heavy rain began falling across Pine Hollow. Water streaked across streetlights and pooled along quiet roads. Thunder rumbled somewhere beyond the hills. Ryan sat at home reviewing paperwork while Ace rested near the living room window. Around 10 o'clock, the German Shepherd suddenly stood. His ears shot forward. Ryan looked up from his desk. Ace walked to the front door, then back to Ryan, then to the door again. The behavior repeated several times. What is it? Ryan asked. The dog released a sharp bark. Then another. Ryan felt a chill. Ace was behaving exactly the same way he had whenever Olivia appeared. Outside, rain hammered the roof. Wind shook the trees. The German Shepherd moved to the door once more and stared into the darkness beyond the glass. For several long seconds, neither moved. Then Ryan's phone rang. The caller identification displayed a name that instantly made his stomach drop. Olivia Parker. And when he answered, the fear in her voice told him something was terribly wrong. Ryan was already reaching for his jacket before the call ended. Rain hammered the windows of his house, while Olivia's frightened voice echoed in his mind. She sounded breathless, confused, not panicked, but deeply unsettled. She had been experiencing unusual symptoms throughout the evening. Dizziness, fatigue, a feeling she could not properly explain. At first she had ignored them. Then they became impossible to dismiss. Ryan grabbed his keys and headed for the door. Ace was there before him. The German Shepherd stood rigid, ears forward, waiting. It was as if he had known the call was coming. Outside, Cold rain swept across the streets of Pine Hollow. Streetlights reflected in pools of water as Ryan drove through the storm. Ace sat upright in the passenger compartment behind him, unusually alert. Every few moments the dog shifted position and stared through the windshield into the darkness ahead. When Ryan arrived, Olivia was waiting beneath the covered entrance of her home. Her face looked pale beneath the porch light. Rain blew sideways across the yard. She wrapped a jacket tightly around herself and tried to smile, but the effort quickly faded. "I feel silly calling you," she admitted as Ryan approached. "But something just does not feel right." Ryan nodded. "Have you called your doctor?" "I tried. The answering service told me to monitor my symptoms unless they get worse." Before Ryan could answer, Ace stepped forward. The German Shepherd immediately moved toward Olivia. Not barking, not pulling, focused. His nose worked continuously as he circled several feet around her. Then he stopped. His attention settled on the same place it always had. Ryan watched carefully. The pattern was undeniable now. Every encounter, every reaction, every warning, always the same. Olivia looked down at the dog. For the first time, concern replaced embarrassment in her expression. "Do you really think he senses something?" she asked quietly. Ryan hesitated. A week earlier, he would have dismissed the idea entirely. Now he was no longer sure. "I think Ace believes something is wrong," he answered honestly. A flash of lightning illuminated the neighborhood. Thunder followed several seconds later. The storm seemed to grow heavier by the minute. Ryan made a decision. "I want you to go to the hospital tonight." Olivia looked surprised. "Right now?" "Right now." She glanced toward the dark road stretching beyond her driveway. "What if they tell me everything is fine?" Ryan looked at Ace. The German Shepherd had not taken his eyes off her. "Then we lose a few hours," Ryan said softly. "But if he is right, we cannot afford to wait." Less than an hour later, they arrived at Pine Hollow Regional Medical Center. Bright lights reflected across wet pavement outside the emergency entrance. Nurses guided Olivia through routine evaluations while Ryan remained in the waiting area with Ace. The hospital smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. Monitors beeped somewhere beyond closed doors. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. Rain continued striking the windows. Ryan sat quietly beside his partner, exhaustion creeping into his bones. Then a physician emerged from the examination wing. His expression immediately caught Ryan's attention. The doctor approached slowly, reviewing notes in his hands. "Officer Mitchell," he said, "we found something." Ryan stood. His pulse quickened. Across the room, Ace rose to his feet. The physician looked toward the German Shepherd for a brief moment before turning back to Ryan. "It is rare," he said carefully. "Very rare. But if we had not caught it tonight, the outcome could have been very different." And for the first time since the strange barking began, Ryan realized Ace may have been warning them all along. The waiting room seemed unusually quiet after the doctor left. Rain continued tapping against the hospital windows while distant thunder rolled across the hills beyond Pine Hollow. Ryan stood motionless for several seconds, replaying the physician's words in his mind. Rare, difficult to detect, potentially serious if left undiscovered. None of it felt real. Across the room, Ace remained standing beside his chair. The German Shepherd's ears were forward, his eyes fixed on the hallway where Olivia had disappeared. For the first time in days, he was not barking. He was simply watching, almost as if he knew his warning had finally been heard. A few minutes later, the doctor returned carrying a folder. His expression was calm now, though traces of concern still lingered behind his eyes. He explained that Olivia was experiencing an uncommon pregnancy-related complication that can sometimes develop gradually and remain difficult to identify during routine examinations. The symptoms often appear subtle at first. Fatigue, dizziness, general discomfort, easy to dismiss, easy to mistake for ordinary pregnancy changes. Fortunately, additional testing had revealed warning signs early enough for specialists to intervene. Ryan listened carefully. He was not a medical expert. Most of the technical language meant little to him. What mattered was the final sentence. Olivia and her baby now had a much better chance because the condition had been discovered before it progressed further. Relief washed through him. Outside, the storm continued. Inside, everything suddenly felt lighter. Several hours passed before Ryan was allowed to briefly see Olivia. She sat upright in a hospital bed, wrapped in a blanket. Her face looked tired, but color had already begun returning to her cheeks. Medical monitors hummed softly nearby. A warm lamp illuminated the room. When she saw Ryan enter, she smiled. "Looks like your partner was trying to tell us something after all." Ryan glanced toward the doorway where Ace sat patiently beside a nurse. The German Shepherd's tail moved once against the floor. Olivia looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes filled with emotion. "I kept thinking he disliked me," she said quietly. "Now I think he was trying to help me." Neither spoke for a few seconds. The room remained peaceful. Rain streaked down the glass beyond the window. Somewhere farther down the hallway, a newborn cried briefly before the sound faded. Life continuing. Hope continuing. Olivia rested a hand gently against her stomach. The doctors said another few days could have made things much more complicated. Ryan nodded slowly. He understood what she was really saying. Ace's strange behavior had not been random. It had not been a mistake. Somehow, through senses nobody fully understood, the dog had recognized that something was wrong long before anyone else suspected it. As dawn slowly approached, and the storm finally began to weaken, the first pale light of morning touched the hospital windows. Ace remained quietly beside the bed. His amber eyes seemed softer now. The tension that had consumed him for weeks appeared to be fading. But Ryan noticed something else. Whenever a nurse entered the room, Ace still glanced toward Olivia before relaxing again. The warning was gone. The concern remained. And deep inside, Ryan realized there was still one question nobody could answer. How had Ace known before all of them that two lives were depending on a secret hidden beneath the surface? The story spread through Pine Hollow faster than any official report ever could. Within days, nearly everyone had heard some version of what happened. At the diner, people lowered their voices when discussing the German Shepherd who somehow knew something was wrong before doctors found it. At the grocery store, cashiers shared the story with customers. At the police station, officers who had worked with K-9 units for decades shook their heads in disbelief. No one could fully explain it, yet no one could deny it either. Olivia remained in the hospital for several more days while specialists monitored her condition closely. Each update brought better news. The treatments were working. The warning signs were stabilizing. Most importantly, both she and the baby were responding well. Every morning sunlight streamed through her hospital window, and each morning she found herself thinking about the same dog, the one she had misunderstood from the very beginning. One quiet afternoon, Ryan brought Ace to visit again. Outside, autumn leaves drifted across the hospital parking lot beneath a bright blue sky. Inside, the atmosphere felt lighter than it had during the stormy night that brought Olivia there. When Ace entered the room, Olivia smiled immediately. There was no nervousness this time. No embarrassment. Only gratitude. The German Shepherd approached slowly and sat beside her bed. For several moments, they simply looked at one another. Then Olivia reached down and gently rested her hand against his neck. Ace closed his eyes briefly. Ryan watched the scene from the doorway. Something about it felt deeply moving. The misunderstanding that had once separated them had completely disappeared. Later that day, one of the attending physicians stopped by the room. He had become curious after hearing staff discuss the unusual circumstances surrounding Olivia's admission. While reviewing her case, he explained that dogs possess remarkable scent detection abilities. Changes in human chemistry, hormone levels, and biological processes can sometimes produce subtle signals far beyond normal human perception. Science could explain part of the mystery, but even the physician admitted there were questions without clear answers. "We understand more than we used to," he said. "But sometimes these animals notice things before our instruments do." Olivia glanced toward Ace. The German Shepherd remained peacefully at her bedside. The tension that had consumed him for weeks seemed completely gone now. No barking, no whining, no desperate attempts to get someone's attention. Just calm, just quiet, as if the problem he had sensed had finally been addressed. That evening, Ryan sat outside the hospital beneath a maple tree covered in orange leaves. Ace rested beside him while the sun slowly disappeared beyond the hills. The officer thought back to the festival. The barking, the confusion, the criticism, the countless times people had assumed the dog was wrong, including himself. He smiled softly and scratched behind Ace's ears. "You never gave up, did you?" The German Shepherd looked up at him. His tail tapped gently against the grass. In the fading light, Ryan realized something important. The mystery was no longer about how Ace knew. The real story was that he cared enough to keep trying when nobody understood. And because he refused to stay silent, Two lives now had a future that might otherwise have been lost to a warning nobody was willing to hear. Winter arrived gently that year. The last leaves disappeared from the trees, and cool morning frost covered the lawns throughout Pine Hollow. Weeks turned into months. Life slowly returned to normal, but not in the way anyone expected. Olivia was finally home. Her doctors remained optimistic. Regular checkups showed encouraging progress, and each visit brought more reassurance than the one before. The fear that had once followed her everywhere gradually faded. In its place came gratitude. Every evening, she walked through her neighborhood, breathing the cold air and appreciating simple things she had once taken for granted. The sound of children playing, the glow of porch lights at dusk, the feeling of hope. Ryan occasionally checked on her, though their conversations rarely focused on what happened anymore. The crisis had passed. The future now deserved attention. Yet one visitor remained especially important. Ace. Whenever Ryan stopped by, the German shepherd accompanied him. The routine became familiar. Olivia would greet them at the door. Ace would calmly approach, receive a gentle scratch behind the ears, and settle beside her porch swing while neighbors waved from across the street. The dog who had once embarrassed her in public had somehow become one of the most trusted presences in her life. One crisp December afternoon, Olivia invited Ryan and Ace to join her for a community holiday gathering at the town square. The same square where everything had begun months earlier. Strings of white lights hung above the sidewalks. Christmas music drifted softly through the air. Families gathered around decorated trees while children laughed beneath falling snowflakes. The scene felt almost magical. Ryan noticed the difference immediately. Months earlier, people had whispered when Ace barked at Olivia. Now they smiled when they saw them together. Several residents stopped to pet the German shepherd. Others thanked him as though he could understand every word. Perhaps in some way he did. Near sunset, Olivia stood beneath the town Christmas tree and looked across the crowd. Warm golden lights reflected in her eyes. One hand rested gently against her stomach. She smiled as Ace sat beside her. Calm, watchful, content. For the first time since the festival, there was no urgency in him. No warning. No tension. Only peace. Snow began falling more heavily as evenings settled over Pine Hollow. Tiny white flakes drifted through the glow of the holiday lights. Ryan watched Ace quietly. The German shepherd lifted his head toward Olivia and then relaxed again. It was a small gesture. Most people would never have noticed it. But Ryan did, because he remembered the fear in those desperate barks. He remembered the confusion, the doubt, the countless moments when nobody understood what the dog was trying to say. Standing there beneath the falling snow, he realized something extraordinary. Ace had never wanted attention. He had never wanted recognition. He had only wanted someone to listen. And because he refused to stop trying, a future that once seemed uncertain was now filled with hope. Yet the most beautiful part of the story had not happened yet. It was still waiting quietly just a few weeks ahead, arriving with the first cry of a child whose life would forever be connected to a dog that never gave up. January arrived beneath clear skies and quiet snowfall. The holiday decorations slowly disappeared from storefronts, and Pine Hollow settled into the peaceful rhythm of winter. For Olivia, every day felt like a gift she no longer took for granted. The medical appointments that once filled her with anxiety now brought reassurance. Each visit confirmed the same wonderful news. She was healthy. The baby was healthy. The future looked bright. On a cold morning near the end of the month, that future finally arrived. Snow rested gently on rooftops as Ryan parked outside Pine Hollow Regional Medical Center. Ace sat beside him in the patrol vehicle, unusually calm. The call had come just after sunrise. Olivia was in labor. Several hours later, the waiting room doors opened. A nurse stepped out wearing a warm smile. Ryan immediately knew. Everything had gone well. Relief spread through him like sunlight breaking through clouds. Outside, the winter wind moved softly through bare tree branches. Inside, joy quietly filled the hospital corridors. Later that afternoon, Olivia invited Ryan to visit. The room felt peaceful. Warm light spilled through the windows. A small bassinet rested beside the bed. Olivia looked tired but happy in a way words could never fully describe. Cradled in her arms was a healthy baby boy wrapped in a pale blue blanket. Ryan stepped inside and smiled. "He is perfect," he said softly. Olivia glanced toward the doorway. "There is someone else I want him to meet." A nurse opened the door and allowed Ace to enter. The German Shepherd moved carefully across the room. His usual confidence gave way to something gentler. He approached the bassinet slowly and stopped. For several seconds, the room became completely silent. Olivia lowered the blanket slightly so the baby could be seen more clearly. The newborn stirred. Tiny fingers stretched into the air. Ace lowered his head and quietly watched. No barking, no whining, no urgency, just calm curiosity. Then something happened that nobody present would ever forget. The baby's small hand brushed against the thick fur on the side of Ace's neck. The German Shepherd remained perfectly still. His amber eyes softened. His tail moved once against the floor. Olivia felt tears forming immediately. Ryan looked away briefly, blinking against the emotion of the moment. Months earlier, this same dog had stood in a crowded festival desperately trying to warn people about a danger nobody could see. He had been misunderstood, criticized, ignored, yet he never stopped trying. Now the life he fought so hard to protect rested peacefully only inches away. As evening settled outside the hospital, golden sunlight filled the room one final time before fading into dusk. Snowflakes drifted beyond the windows. The baby slept quietly. Olivia smiled. Ryan stood beside them, and Ace remained watchful near the bassinet, content in a way Ryan had never seen before. No one could fully explain how the German Shepherd knew what he knew. Perhaps some mysteries are not meant to be solved completely. Perhaps they are simply meant to remind us that loyalty speaks in ways words never can. In that quiet hospital room, surrounded by gratitude, hope, and new beginnings, one truth felt undeniable. Sometimes miracles arrive long before we recognize them. Sometimes they arrive on four paws, asking us to listen. And sometimes, when we finally do, entire lives are changed by the warning of a faithful friend who refused to give up.